Oh, well, I have a fun challenge here. That is just to...
Sure.
Yeah, engineering is a little short-staffed because a lot of people are going to eating food right now. So I'm just trying to just do like discussion challenges and give them a break to sort of before we launch into more singing and dancing. If anybody has any weird roommate stories they want to share, that would be great. I can start you guys off. I have a good roommate story. All right, so when I was in college, I lived with a guy named Travis, who was actually an excellent roommate. He was.
Wait, is the weird roommate story about you being a roommate?
No.
Okay.
He was really cool. We played lots of video games together. His favorite game in the world was Thief. I don't know, like his favorite game series was Thief, so I only imagine that he wept bitter, bitter tears when Theforth came out. But anyhow, Travis was really, really, really bad at remembering to do the dishes. And one year, I went to go visit my dad for Christmas, and I was away for about 3.5 weeks. And I came back, and there was a ton of dirty dishes. And it looked like a Christmas meal had been made. And I'm like, oh, did you... And I came back on January 6th. So, I was like, did you invite a bunch of people over for dinner recently? He's like, no, that's from Christmas. Oh. So I was like, because it was like turkey pan, yams, mashed potatoes, like the whole, it was a Christmas dinner's worth of food.
It's
and
always
sitting
the dishes
there
and the cleaning.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah. Ew. Like, I had a roommate who she wasn't awful, but she didn't like cleaning, and it was that sort of like, I would be irritated by the cleaning. Thank goodness, it's really hard to drive one-handed. That took so long. Oh my gosh.
All right.
Cut on just
done.
Oh, shit. I tried to hit you like 2 minutes ago.
I couldn't see your hand.
Oh no.
So when I looked over and I thought Matt has his head back, so I just immediately turned to them and I'm like, yeah. Thank you.
Hang on, nearly immediately. I was like, oh, this is
Well, I'm like, Catherine's leaning towards me, so it's either a challenge or... Oh, wait, they're... Okay.
You were talking about communicating with engineering, so I was like,
I was killing time!
My roommate cleaned for me for a birthday present once, was what I was going to say. Basically, because she knew that the house was never as clean as I wanted it, so I came and she's like, for your birthday, I cleaned up and I did all the dishes. That's really sweet. Could you do it all the time now?
That's the opposite of my roommate. Then I must say that Travis was an excellent roommate in every other regard.
So I had, because I went to art school, so those were always really fun roommates. When I was in my second year, I had a roommate that was a painting major, and so she would basically, we had like this huge house in Baltimore that, because Baltimore rent is dirt cheap, she would use the basement as like her studio, and then she would come upstairs into the kitchen, still covered in paint, because she did like these like really chunky, weird paintings. She wasn't very good. That's the other killing part of the story.
Shots fired.
I doubt she's watching this, and if she is, I don't really care. But she would come upstairs, just like her hands completely covered in paint, and then proceed to like cook and make food. And like I would just come into the kitchen, and it would just be covered in paint.
Hopefully it wasn't lead-based.
It was oil paint, so you're not supposed to eat it.
No, that doesn't seem good. How's she doing these days?
I don't know. Oh, there's Mr. President.
So my first roommate in college, and I went to the University of Georgia. At the University of Georgia, on game days, like football's a big deal there, and on game days at the dorm where I stayed, the students needed to, over the weekend, like remove their cars from the lot so that like tailgaters could all park there and have their like pregame parties and stuff.
The Alumni Association sold parking spaces to tailgaters.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So to make more money, they made the students
They made the students
take
move their car.
their cars off campus.
It kind of sucked, but like
Yeah.
my family lived nearby, so like I made do, and I just usually on those weekends I just kind of went home. But my roommate couldn't do that, so he was stuck in the dorm all weekend when those game days happened. And when tailgaters come, like for a college football game, they will come. They're usually older. They will come early and they will blare Motown music at 8 a.m. like every single time. And he would just get so furious that every Saturday he would just be woken up at the crack of dawn by like My Girl. And so one of these weekends, I came back to the apartment to find, looking over in our sink, like it was just full of water balloons. And I looked over to find him over at the window just looking down. And then he looked back at me and said, like, I got one earlier and you missed it. Like, he had been throwing water balloons out our dorm window at, like, old people all day.
That's like
awesome.
a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon animation.
And the thing is, they couldn't come into the dorms. The doors were locked, so anyone he made mad couldn't get him. So
That is the correct thing to do. I'm like sad I didn't think about that for lots of. Oh man.
He had an uncanny ability to make this sound.
yeah, he
It
also.
was this like shrieking, dying animal sound.
Yeah, he likes to freak people out at night too. Like he would open the window super late at night and just make this, like sort of like out sort of from our door and just terrify people.
He would hide in bushes and jump out of
I forgot about that part.
That actually is kind of a good segue into my story. I lived in effectively like the equivalent of a frat house, and there were horrible, horrible stories of dishes and whatnot, but my room, it was an older house from the 70s, and so the walkway, like the front walkway, had a really, really low sloping portion of the roof over it. So you could climb up a tree, like a little bit of a tree, and then get onto the roof very easily, and it would go up and then go out, and then my bedroom window was here. So right above this low sloping area. So my roommates were having a huge party, and I believe I had strep throat or something, so I was upstairs trying to get to sleep, and my bed was right beside the window, and I hear in my ear somebody whisper, "Hey Mia, how's it going?" When no one should be there. And someone had, my roommate had climbed up onto the roof and crouched next to my window and
gosh.
like whispered directly, essentially into my ear.
Was his name Edward?
No, but I've never screamed so loud. Like, I was like, I know it's someone who was at this party, but for the love of God, please don't like.
That's terrifying. Roommates, incentive for marriage.
It's just asking for you.
Or just living somewhere that's cheap enough rents to live on your own.